In the quiet depths of a city midnight, if you look away from your glowing screens and glance toward a balcony, an alleyway, or the shadow of a street corner, you will almost always catch a flickering spark. A tiny, amber ember, breathing in the dark. With a deep inhale, the crimson light brightens for a fleeting second, followed by a soft plume of pale blue smoke gently blurring the face of the stranger holding it. To the modern world, this is a sight too familiar. We dismiss it as stress, addiction, or merely a mechanical habit to occupy restless fingers. Modern medicine warns us with sterile statistics, and industrial assembly lines churn out billions of identical filtered cigarettes every day. But have you ever paused to ask a rather absurd question? Why smoke? Why is humanity the only species on this planet that actively seeks out a sensation of choking, intentionally drawing the dense, bitter fumes of burning vegetation deep into our lungs? This mundane act, now wrapped in layers of commercialization, actually hangs at the end of a vast, ancient, and nearly sacred chain of causality. When we light that flame today, what kind of 10,000-year-old ritual are we unknowingly repeating? To find out, we must strip away the plastic lighters, the sleek packaging, and the industrial filters. We must rewind time past the empires, past the invention of money, all the way back to 12,000 years ago, on the bleak North American tundra at the end of the last ice age. That was a world ruled by absolute darkness. When night fell, human ancestors huddled in shallow caves, surrounded by the howling wilderness and the terrifying unknown. Fire was their only shield. One night, while gathering firewood, someone tossed a bundle of wild, dried weeds into the hearth. Perhaps it was a resilient patch of ancient tobacco, or a withered leaf, rich in volatile oils. Soon, a strange, intoxicating aroma began to rise from the crackling flames. At first, it was a tool for survival. Our ancestors noticed that this peculiar smoke was incredibly effective at driving away the blood-sucking insects that carried disease. But as they sat gathered around the fire through the long, freezing night, a biological miracle occurred. As the hunters breathed in the smoke, the nerves they had kept tightly strung to watch for predators began to unravel into a soft, unexpected relaxation. Hunger faded, the dread of the dark softened. In a world before written language, humans made a profound discovery. Nature had provided a plant that allowed them to alter their inner pain, simply through the act of breathing. From the perspective of evolutionary biology, our fascination with smoke is a beautifully orchestrated trap, an evolutionary paradox. By all accounts of mammalian instinct, our primal response to smoke should be flight. Inhaling smoke triggers violent coughing and suffocating panic. It is a hardwired warning of death. So, how did a simple leaf breach a defense system perfected over millions of years? The answer lies in a molecular chemical war between plants and animals. To protect itself from being eaten by insects, the tobacco plant evolved a highly potent neurotoxin, an alkaloid we now call nicotine. In nature, it was meant to be a lethal pesticide. Yet, in a bizarre twist of evolutionary fate, when this toxin enters the human lungs through smoke and crosses the blood-brain barrier, it perfectly mimics a crucial neurotransmitter in our brains, acetylcholine. It hijacks our neural receptors, forcibly pressing the brain's dopamine reward switch. Your body is technically enduring irritation, but your brain is receiving a chemical whisper that says, you are safe. You are relaxed. Our alliance with this leaf was hardwired into our synapses long before civilization ever began. When this biological chemistry intertwined with humanity's search for meaning, smoking ascended to the altar of the gods. In the ancient temples of the Maya and around the council fires of indigenous Americans, smoking was never a casual pastime, nor a vice. It was the highest form of communion with the divine. When archaeologists excavated an ancient hearth in Utah, they found charred tobacco seeds dating back 12,000 years. This proves that long before humans learned to farm or build cities, we were already gathering this sacred herb. To the native tribes, tobacco was a holy gift. Shamans would inhale dense clouds of smoke during rituals, entering a state of ecstatic trance. In their cosmology, human language was heavy, bound to the earth. But the smoke of a burning plant was the only substance that defied gravity, rising effortlessly toward the heavens. It carried their prayers, their history, and their grief to the ancestors dwelling in the sky. Even bitter enemies, after devastating wars, would sit in a circle to share the pipe of peace. As the smoke mingled in the air between them, old blood feuds were momentarily suspended. Smoking, in its purest era, was a sacred covenant of peace and shared humanity. But the script of human history always takes a sharp turn at its most innocent chapters. In the late 15th century, Christopher Columbus's ships made landfall in the Americas. The dried leaves offered by the indigenous people, as a gesture of friendship, would soon alter the geopolitical landscape of the world. When the age of sail brought tobacco to Europe, and when it collided with the gears of the Industrial Revolution, the sacred ritual was completely dismantled. To maximize profit, capitalism chopped it, chemically flavored it, and rolled it into standardized paper tubes. The frantic pace of modern factory life had no room for shamanic meditation. It demanded an efficient fuel, something a worker could stick in their mouth to get a 5-minute chemical spark before returning to the machine. Smoking became an industrial tool to suppress the exhaustion of the modern white-collar and blue-collar worker. We light it in anxiety. We inhale it in fatigue. We no longer thank the earth. We no longer revere the gods. And we rarely even look at the person standing next to us. It has become a lonely, mechanical numbing of the brain. Tonight, if you happen to step outside and see that solitary red ember glowing in the dark, watch the smoke drift and dissolve beneath the neon lights. Perhaps we can grant this rushing world a brief, intentional pause. Think of that fire lit 12,000 years ago on a frozen plain, warming the faces of our ancestors. Think of how long we have danced with this single leaf, just to find a fleeting moment of peace on this earth. The distant city bells fade into the night, and the wind carries away the last traces of smoke. In an age of endless pressure, may you find a way to let your soul breathe, even when the fire goes out.